Imagine this. It's 1386 in the French town of Falaise. A crowd gathers in the square, buzzing with anticipation. Today, they will witness justice served, but not for a human. At the center of the spectacle is a pig, shackled, dressed in a jacket, gloves and trousers, standing trial for murder. The judge reads the charges aloud. The sow stands accused of killing a child. Witnesses testify. The court listens gravely. And when the verdict is reached, guilty, the crowd erupts. The sentence? Death by hanging. Welcome to medieval Europe, where your greatest legal rival might have been livestock. Before you laugh too hard, let's step into the medieval mindset. Back then, the Catholic Church shaped nearly every aspect of life, including the law. The universe was seen as a fragile balance of divine order. Everything had its place: humans, animals, God. And when that balance was broken, when an animal killed, stole, or even laid an unexpected egg, the act wasn't just a crime. It was a sin, and sin demanded punishment. Animals were thought to have souls capable of moral choices. If a pig mauled a child or a horse trampled a man, it wasn't considered instinct. It was willful disobedience against God's natural order. That's why trials followed such serious human-like procedures. Summonses were issued, sometimes nailed to church doors, just like for human defendants. Lawyers defended them, often arguing the animal wasn't properly notified or couldn't understand the charges. Witnesses testified about what they saw, and verdicts were reached with solemnity. Medieval courts didn't see absurdity in this. To them, punishing an animal wasn't just about vengeance. It was about restoring cosmic balance and appeasing divine justice. Science, reason, rationality. Yeah, those were still in beta testing. No animal faced medieval justice more often than the pig. In small villages, pigs roamed freely, rooting through trash, wandering streets, and, sometimes, injuring or killing unattended children. Since they mingled so closely with humans, they became the most common animal defendants. Case number 1, the Pig of Falaise, 1386. The infamous case from our opening. A pig was accused of killing a child. The court spared no theatrics. The sow was tried like a person. She was dressed in human clothes to honor the seriousness of the crime. The execution took place in the town square before a massive crowd. Her 6 piglets were dragged to court too, accused of aiding her. They were forced to watch her death as a lesson. Nothing says moral reform like public pig trauma. Case number 2, the Savigny piglets, 1457. If you think the Falaise pig was wild, let me introduce you to Savigny. Another sow was convicted of killing a 5-year-old boy. Her punishment? Execution by hanging. But this time, the court also charged her 6 piglets as accomplices. After weeks of deliberation, the verdict came down. Mama pig, guilty. Piglets, acquitted. Why? Because the court ruled they were too young to understand the nature of the crime. Congratulations, piglets. You've just become the first minors officially acquitted in French legal history. Case number 3, collective pig punishment. In some villages, justice didn't stop at one pig. Take a case from the Loire Valley. A single pig attacked and killed a baby. Horrific, yes, but the court's solution was extreme. They ordered the entire herd executed. Why? Medieval legal doctrine included the concept of communal guilt. If one animal committed a sin, the whole group bore responsibility. Imagine being pig number 17, minding your business, and suddenly you're sentenced to death for something Steve the pig did 3 fields over. Medieval justice. Efficient, if not exactly fair. All right, pigs had their day in court, but medieval Europe didn't stop there. If it moved, it could stand trial. Case number 4, the Basel rooster, 1474. Basel, Switzerland. A farmer discovers that his rooster has laid an egg. Yes, biologically rare, but possible. The townsfolk panic. They're convinced it's witchcraft. A rooster egg, they believe, contains the potential for a basilisk, a mythical serpent capable of killing with a glance. So they haul the rooster to court, accuse it of consorting with the devil, and sentence it to death by fire. Congrats, little guy. You cracked gender norms 6 centuries early, and Basel responded by burning you alive. Case number 5, the Great Rat Trial, 1522, Autumn, France. The local court brings charges against every rat in town. Their crime, eating the grain stores. Summonses are issued. The rats, unsurprisingly, don't show up. So the court appoints them a lawyer, Barthélemy Chassanet, a rising legal star. And honestly, this guy might have been the Johnny Cochran of rodents. His arguments? The summons wasn't specific enough to notify each rat individually. Traveling to court would be too dangerous because of the cats along the way. Shockingly, the court accepted this defense. Case dismissed. In 16th century France, rats had better lawyers than most peasants. Case number 6, the Weevil excommunication, 1545, St. Julian, Italy. Local vineyards are under siege by weevils, devouring crops at alarming rates. So the church does what it does best. It puts the insects on trial. Summonses are issued. The bugs, shockingly, fail to appear. So the court takes the next logical step. They excommunicate the weevils, and the weevils keep eating. Fun fact, turns out, weevils are not Catholic. Case number 7, dolphins on trial, 1596, Marseille. Yes, even dolphins weren't safe. In Marseille, fishermen accuse pods of destroying their nets. Witnesses testify. Judges deliberate. The verdict? The dolphins are given an ultimatum: leave the bay or face divine wrath. According to court records, the dolphins mysteriously vanish days later. Divine intervention? Or maybe dolphins just didn't like subpoenas. By now you've noticed a theme. Medieval animals had better representation than many humans. There were lawyers who specialized in animal defense. Some of their strategies were genuinely clever. Argue the animal wasn't properly summoned. Claim the defendant couldn't comprehend human law. Or my personal favorite, blame satanic possession. If a cow kicked a man to death, clearly the devil made her do it. And here's the kicker. Sometimes it worked. In multiple weevil cases, attorneys successfully argued that God had granted alternate fields to the bugs. Therefore, humans had no right to drive them away. Translation: the weevils had squatters' rights. By the 17th century, the cracks in the system started to show. The Renaissance brought a rediscovery of science, logic, and reason, and some folks began questioning whether putting pants on pigs was really the pinnacle of justice. But old habits die hard. Animal trials continued in pockets of Europe well into the 18th century. Even as scholars like Descartes and Locke debated whether animals had souls, rural courts clung to traditions that blended theology, fear, and theater. By the Enlightenment, the legal landscape shifted. Animals were no longer seen as moral agents. They were property. If a pig attacked someone in 1750, you didn't hang the pig anymore. You fined the owner. Finally, justice stopped confusing barnyard creatures for hardened criminals. It's easy to laugh at this now, to roll our eyes and think, wow, medieval people were ridiculous. But animal trials tell us something deeper about how humans make sense of chaos. The Middle Ages were brutal and uncertain. Disease, famine, war, random tragedy, none of it made sense. If a child died, communities needed answers. By putting animals on trial, they created a story, a villain, a punishment, and, in some strange way, justice. These trials weren't just about punishing a pig or a rooster. They were about reassuring a frightened world that order could be restored. And maybe, in their own strange way, that worked. For centuries, pigs, rats, roosters, weevils, dolphins, and even dogs stood before judges, defended by lawyers, and sentenced like humans. Some were hanged, some were burned, some were excommunicated. Was this justice? Was it theater? Or just humanity desperately trying to tame the chaos around them? Whatever it was, it left behind centuries of absurd court records, pages upon pages proving that sometimes the past was far stranger than fiction. And one thing's for sure, if cats had ever stood trial, they'd have walked free every single time. And that, my friends, is the tale of how pigs, roosters, rats, and yes, even dolphins faced the long arm of medieval justice. If you enjoyed this stroll through humanity's stranger side, go ahead and give this video a like. It tells the algorithm we're up to something weird. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, because trust me, history only gets stranger from here. And tap that little notification bell so you won't miss the next time we dig up something bizarre, unsettling, or just plain ridiculous. Until then, stay curious, stay skeptical, and remember, the past isn't dead. It's just weird.